Hey, what's up, Internet? I'm Dan Casey, and welcome to today's episode of Nerdist News Talks Back. It's our weekly over-the-top talk show about all things pop culture, and thank you so much for joining us. Now, on today's show, we have a doozy for you, because before she was an Imperator, she was just Furiosa. That's right, we're talking about the Mad Max prequel. Then we're traveling into the Multiverse of Madness for some Marvel updates, having a grounded discussion about the Static Shock movie, and then boldly going where no one has gone before, to Star Trek Discovery Talk. And last but not least, Dexter is coming back. I know. And we're going to ask the tough but important question, why though? But before all of that, I should mention as well, sorry, I almost forgot, we have some Jon Favreau trivia as well for you on today's Nerdist News Talks Back. But before we get to all of that, let's meet today's panel. So first of all, he's a resident expert on everything from Diana Themyscira to Madonna of Bay City, Michigan. I'm talking about Nerdist staff writer Eric Diaz. Hello, Eric.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm very happy to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me.
Of course. Now, next up, she's a writer extraordinaire and the host with the most. You've seen her at places like TV Guide, The Mary Sue, EW, and right here at Nerdist, it's Keisha Hatchett.
Hello. Sorry,
Hello.
I left my air horns at home today.
Look, we're trying to spare the delicate ears of our viewing audience, so we'll add them in post. So please just imagine the mellifluous tones of air horn blasting off every time your name is mentioned.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. And last but not least, you've seen her all over the place, from DC Daily to Collider Heroes to right here on Nerdist and Geek and Sundry. And now you can catch her streaming on twitch.tv/enthusiamy. It's Amy Dallen.
Hello, I'm excited to be back, and I will definitely be imagining air horns for the duration of this episode, so thank you.
It's basically my inner monologue at all times. It is relaxing and also hell. Anyway, let's get this show on the road, shall we? It's time for our weekly segment that we like to call Should You Still Be Wearing a Mask in Public This Week? And let's see. Yes, the answer is still yes. Absolutely yes. We're still in a pandemic. Also, make sure you register to vote. It's the last day in a bunch of states, including California. So if you haven't done that yet, please do so. All right, moving right along. So while we're on the topic of face masks, there's a strange new trend in the world of personal protective equipment. I'm talking, of course, about scented face masks. That's right, folks. The workers down at the old factory have been cooking up some surprising scents that you can then strap onto your face. Jack in the Box is making one that produces the scent of fried chicken, and Hormel is promoting their black label bacon with something they're calling breathable bacon. So my question to the panel is, A, would you wear one of these? And B, what ideal scent would your face mask produce? So, Amy, your look of consternation makes me wonder. Please, let's start with you.
I mean, it's not that I don't enjoy pleasant smells, but that sounds like a nightmare. Like, I don't know, man. I will call you out for saying workers down at the old factory? Was
yes.
that
It's the oldest factory in the block.
Old factory.
Yes.
Where they make the smelly things.
Yes. I know, it's senseless of me to include because I don't have one, but anyway, so the important question is, say you had to have a scent pumped in.
Flowers, something that's not food, something that's not either going to make you hungry or burn out immediately and make you hate the smell of a formerly delicious thing. So I feel like there's a reason that people zeroed in on sort of flowers and other kind of gentle natural world scents, and it's because it won't go anywhere. It'll be attached to your face. You got to think that stuff through.
Yeah.
I don't think if anyone's purchasing a breathable bacon face mask, they're in the habit of thinking something through. I think that they're just like, oh, that sounds good. Let me strap it to my face. But Keisha, what about you? What would your face mask scent of choice be?
It would be called Absolutely Not, because I refuse to have a scented mask on my face. First of all, you're already fighting the elements of mask me. Have you heard of that? Now add some kind of scented liquid on top of that. Sounds like a nightmare. So no, I would not. But if I had to, if he held me down and said, this mask must have a scent on it, I would go with something lovely like, I don't know, eucalyptus.
Ooh.
You know, just like a nice aromatherapy.
Yeah, and you could trick koalas into hanging out with you even during these uncertain times.
Wait, are they the ones with rabies? Hold on.
I hope not. Otherwise, we have to check on Australia right now. I mean, that said, I feel like every murder monster in existence lives in Australia in some shape or form, so I'm sure they've had some rabid koalas here and there. But Eric, tell me, if you had to, in this YA novel I have just written, everyone in this dystopian future must have a scented face mask, what would yours smell like?
I mean, I really am against anything that makes me hungrier than normal. Like, I don't need to be in that state more than I already am. But if I had to, I love donuts. Like the donut shop smell. I mean, if I had to, I mean, it would cause damage in my life, but like that's where I'd go.
I mean,
Like,
that does sound pretty comforting.
yeah.
I could definitely, I do miss the scent of a bakery.
Ugh,
For
so good.
mine, while I don't really have much of a sense of smell of which to speak anymore, I would say I would probably go with, because I don't think I would burn out on this. It's like the most like screwed up version of Proust Madeleines ever. It would be those scented markers that I had in like middle school, where everyone was like, this one smells like blueberries, and like just a variety of those. So it's just like, okay, this reminds me of like being creative in my youth, and it's not like believable enough to bother me. And maybe eventually I would just enter some sort of trance-like fugue state and then just wake up when I no longer need to wear a mask. So that's my one-way ticket to time travel. In the chat, we have Yunker
Beautiful.
Roland saying Jim Beam. We have Board Gamer Steph saying maybe apple would be a good smell, either talking about the fruit or the freshly unpacked smell of a pair of ear pods or an iMac or something. And John Embry says not food smell, you'd be hungry all the time, maybe fresh cut grass. It'd be overwhelming though. Yeah, I think that's the problem with all of these, as our panel brought up, is that it would just be like sensory overload all the time, always. But you know what isn't sensory overload all the time, always, but was just awesome for its entire 2-hour runtime? Mad Max Fury Road. So while we're still stuck on the figurative Fury Road of 2020, the Mad Maxiverse is going to be getting even bigger in the future, thanks to the announcement that the Vivitch and New Mutant star Anya Taylor-Joy will be playing Imperator Furiosa in a prequel about the fan favorite character that Charlize Theron played in Mad Max Fury Road. Now, also joining the cast of this movie are Chris Hemsworth and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, but nothing is known about their characters at this time. So my question to the panel is, what do you think about this casting, and how do you hope her portrayal is different than what we saw Charlize do? So Keisha, let's start with you.
Okay, I am excited because first of all, Anna's from Miami and gotta represent Florida always. But yeah, I'm really stoked about this cast. Chris Hemsworth, like, who is, I don't know, Captain Australia now, and he's literally in everything, representing for the koalas out there. And yeah, and Yaya, our guy from, just everything you love right now. So yes,
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see this cast do what they do, although we don't know what they're gonna do yet. So we'll see if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, she, Anya Taylor-Joy is one of those actors who just, whenever you see her on the screen, she's a very striking person. Like when I think the first movie I saw her in was The Witch, and I was immediately like, you're going to be a superstar. This is like, there's no question about it. And like, clearly she's blowing up in a major way between a Netflix series with The Queen's Gambit and New Mutants and now this. But I'm curious, what do you hope that this story adds to the lore of what we've seen so far in Mad Max? Amy?
Ooh, that's the tricky question for me, because Furiosa's journey in Fury Road is perfect. And depending on where this movie needs to end, it's going to be real depressing.
Yeah.
But that it's, to me, I feel a similar way as I do about the casting, which is that, like, I would love to have it be Charlize again. I loved what she said about being kind of heartbroken, but I also agreed with her when she was like, I trust George Miller. I want to see what it is that he wants to do or tell. And then no one's coming to take my Fury Road away. It's a perfect movie, and I can watch it over and over again forever. And I hope that we get a worthy prequel. I hope it ends early enough before the beginning of the last one that it's not as horrifying as I imagine it, because obviously she has lived a life, and that life has its own adventures in it, just like Max has had all these different unconnected adventures. Rakutansky. So I hope it's kind of distant past in that sense. I hope it doesn't disrupt too much of what the story is in my head, but I keep reminding myself that no one's taking away my Fury Road. So I'm in.
Yeah, I think that's an important perspective, and it was something that like it felt like a very prevalent sentiment, even like 5-10 years ago, when this current like spate of aggressive reboots started up, and people were like, oh, this person's ruining my childhood by taking the thing I love and doing it different. And now this is, unless you were a child in 2015, in which case, please go to school. You should be learning. You should not be watching this show right now.
Dan.
I think go to virtual school. Click out of this Zoom, go to a different Zoom. But like, I think that especially knowing how much world building that George Miller and company did for Fury Road, like just thousands and thousands of pages of world building. I'm excited to see what led to the events of Fury Road. But as you mentioned, Amy, I hope it doesn't quite end on such a bummer of a note as Fury Road begins on. But I'm curious, Eric, what do you hope to see from this movie, and how do you think it can enhance what we saw in Fury Road?
I kind of hope it doesn't have that much to do with Fury Road. I hope it's like what Amy said. I hope it's far enough away in the past that it's really like a kind of a separate adventure. Like I kind of am done with the Morton Joe. Like it's just like he's gross enough for one movie. I don't need any more. I mean, I feel like the obvious thing is going to be this is how she lost her arm, and we're going to get that thing. But I hope it's more than that. I really hope it is the Mad Max formula of this is like a separate adventure of just stuff that happened. And maybe there's a little tease that ties into Fury Road, but I kind of feel like she's lived a life, like they said, and it doesn't need to have that much to do with it. She's, especially since she's so much younger. So this could be a completely new story just with that character. And that's kind of what I'm hoping. I haven't seen Anya Taylor-Joy in more than, I saw her in The Witch and I saw her in Split, so I don't have any New Mutants or like, that's what I've seen her in. And she seems like she could do a good job, but Charlize, those are big boots to fill. Like I do not envy what she's got to do, but I look forward to it.
Yeah, especially after hearing what a kind of harrowing and grueling shoot Fury Road was.
Yeah.
Something tells me this will be maybe less aggressive because they won't need to be in like the Namibia desert, like doing all these crazy ass stunts. But I'm sure there's still going to be plenty of practical mayhem and madness to come. And I think you also touched on a good point, which is that this movie does not need to be the Fury on-ramp. It can just be its own thing about Furiosa. Like she has lived this life, and like how did she become like the leader of of all the badass people in Immortan Joe's disgusting brigade of badass people? How did she become like the go-to? He's done such a good job of building this world out. I'm curious as well if we're going to see other characters that we saw in Fury Road, like maybe a younger version of the Volvolini, for example, like this badass group of like old lady snipers who were maybe younger lady snipers back then. So I'm very excited to see what they have coming down the pipeline there. But with that said, any idea or hopes for who someone like Chris Hemsworth or Yahya Abdul-Mateen II might be playing? Amy?
Ooh, I want it to be a surprise. That's my hope is like totally different part of the world. Our characters original to this. We have no idea if they live or die or how they change each other on the way. Like that's what I want. Total mystery. Obviously, those actors are incredible. So I can't wait to see what we get.
Yeah, I think that's also good. Like you want it to feel connected to this universe, but not like, oh, that's Dad Max in a couple years. His son is going to grow up and have a bad time when his family gets married. Anyway, but yeah, I think I'm excited to see what's coming down the pipeline. I like everyone involved there. But let's leave Fury Road behind for a moment and move on into the Multiverse of Madness, because by all accounts, it's a strange time to be alive, especially been following all the news about the not so good Doctor lately. From joining the Spider-Man sequel to casting news about the Multiverse of Madness, we're getting a glimpse into what's coming down the pike for the good Doctor. I don't know why I just contradicted myself. What am I doing here? He contains many shades. He's an arrogant genius who does good, the Sorcerer Supreme. So anyway, according to recent reports, Babysitters Club star Xochitl Gomez is joining the Doctor Strange sequel as a mystery character. Now, I've seen rumblings online, people speculating that she might be playing someone like America Chavez. I'm not so sure I'd buy that, but I'm curious to the panel, who do you think that she might be playing? Eric, let's start with you.
I mean, I kind of go with the consensus that she's probably America Chavez, just because that's a multiverse character that's part of her powers, and she can flip universes. If she's not that character, I kind of think she might be White Tiger, but I don't know how White Tiger would fit into like the whole multiversity part of it. But that, I kind of do think that's probably what she's going to be. But I'm open to like anything, but it's to me, it's between America Chavez and White Tiger.
Yeah, I mean,
So.
that's the nice thing about the multiverse is literally anything is on the table. It's right there in the subtitle. There is no wrong
Yeah.
answer. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
curious. Amy, who do you think that Sochiel might be playing?
I I would be excited if they're doing America Chavez just because she rules. If they're putting together the Young Avengers, I will be excited to see her. I wouldn't be surprised. I know this is a disappointing answer. I wouldn't be surprised if she's a new character for the movie. I know Sam Raimi's a deep nerd, so I can certainly see him being like, I'm drawing things. And White Tiger's a good pull. But my money is probably on original character followed by America.
Do you think that they might be saving America Chavez for like a Disney Plus series or some way to introduce her down the line as they build towards what seems like a Young Avengers franchise?
I think that would be an interesting tactic. I don't know how you do the whole group of them, if that's best done in a standalone movie or by giving them some kind of like long form Runaways-esque serialized show on Disney Plus. It will certainly help if they have planted them in a couple of different places, but she is so unconnected from Doctor Strange, as much as like she's absolutely a multiverse character. But I know I would leave feeling hungry, being like, I want a whole story with you and your moms and the whole thing, and it happened in the background of this shot, and that's awesome, but I want more. So I don't know. I'm tough to please until I'm sitting down, and then I generally love whatever they hand me.
I know that feeling all too well, where it's like I'm just like furious that my food hasn't shown up yet, and then they put it in front of me, and it's the best thing I've ever eaten until they take it away. Then I'm just furious again all over because
We're
I am an
children.
endless
Yeah.
void for content. I need it all the time, always. But I think that a lot of folks, maybe myself included, are deeply curious and maybe placing too much importance on the Multiverse of Madness as this sort of connective tissue between the Marvel Cinematic Universe past and the Marvel Cinematic Universe future, because it has the potential, it seems like, to bridge the gap from what we've seen to where we're going, opening up this whole new dimension, pardon the pun, of like storytelling and possibilities. So, Keisha, I'm curious, what do you hope to see from this movie, and is there anything you'd like to see it set up?
Well, I hope that this movie doesn't fall too hard into the let's set up for the next movie or launching a new characters, because I feel like Doctor Strange, like even jumping off the previous film, it's such a different vibe compared to the others. So I would like it to stick within its originality and just go totally nuts, explore the different universes, bring in, different characters that you wouldn't go full into the Spider-Man into the into the Spider-Verse, and bring in like Doctor Strange and Spider-Pig. So
No, you can't offer me these beautiful visions. I want them now. Now I'm gonna be disappointed.
So like take that kind of route instead of taking it the serious, we have to establish this character. So I hope we don't see America Chavez in this movie, and that she gets introduced in her own way on her own terms, because she is such an important character for people in the Latinx and just the Marvel comic book community as a whole. And just a note, I think a lot of people, what I've seen, they want to see a darker skinned Latinx character represented, because the characters we've seen so far have been, lighter than a paper bag. So like, let's get that kind of on-screen diversity.
Yeah, I think that's an important point as well. A lot of that online discussion has revolved around colorism and just sort of disappointment with leaping to the first thing that comes to mind without pausing to think about how it might actually come across in terms of on-screen representation. And as we've been talking about, this is a giant canvas. Like, this is a whole universe of characters. Not everyone has to be someone that we've met before in a comic previously. Like, think about a character like Phil Coulson, for example, someone who they kind of built up for this cinematic universe. It's possible plus years of backstory you can create that it doesn't place too much focus on being like, what's behind this portal? It's the X-Men. Come on in. What's behind this portal? It's the Fantastic Four. Boy, howdy. Guess who else we have? I think that you can tease that a little bit and have some fun with it, because we're seeing these alternate realities. We're seeing what might have been or what could be. But I do think that through line is going to be that kind of like surreal, otherworldly black magic that we all know and love from Doctor Strange.
Okay, completely left field. What if she's Valeria Richards, and that's what we're gonna see? This is the back door to recasting all of them?
Honestly, I would be more than okay with this. That's the kind of wild card answer I want. It's like the last thing you expect. Let's see in the chat as well. John Embry says they do seem to be setting up Young Avengers. I agree. I think I'm excited to see what else they have coming down the pipeline in regards to that, because you have so many of these characters you're introducing. Hannibal's Kitchen agrees with you, Eric, says White Tiger. Howard DiNatale, I apologize if I butchered your last name, says I'd like to see a setup for Young Avengers or Illuminati. And look, you're only missing a couple members, but I will say the Russo brothers have mentioned Secret Wars a number of times, so maybe we'll get the Illuminati slowly but surely. There have been some Easter eggs over the years, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Maybe like phase 6 or 7. And Amanda Louise says Multiverse of Madness, but as a Roger Rabbit style movie. So I can get down with that. I think like if you have some animated characters too, that might like stretch the imagination into like the MCU goes full Space Jam territory. But look, stranger things have certainly happened. But let's leave the Marvel Cinematic Universe behind and move to what I think can only be described as some seriously shocking news from the DC Universe. When on Friday, the Hollywood Reporter reported that known comic book and anime fan and very good actor Michael B. Jordan is going to produce the upcoming Static Shock movie that was first revealed during August's DC Fandom event. Now, for those who don't know, Static Shock first began as a series simply called Static under DC's Milestones Comics banner, founded by Black writers and artists to help make comics a more inclusive space, and then Static, later stylized as Static Shock thanks to the animated series, followed the adventures of Virgil Hawkins, a metahuman who developed a host of electromagnetic powers after being exposed to radioactive chemicals. So my question to the panel is, A, how excited are you for this? And B, why is now the right time for a Static Shock revival? So Amy, let's start with you on this one.
I'm so excited. It's such a cool piece of comic book history. The right time for a Static Shock revival was 1995, but the second best time is now. And I don't know. I'm so happy it's happening. Whatever version they get, I hope I'm getting ahead of myself for ideas on it, but level of excitement, 15 out of 10.
I think that's look, I'm no mathematician, but that sounds pretty exciting to me. Keisha, same question as well. What do you want to see from the Static Shock movie? Who should play Static?
You know, you threw out I know that Michael B. Jordan is way too old for this character now. So in terms of who, it's so hard because everyone I know and it comes to mind is so too old for this role, which is really sad to me that I can't really name someone of the age that would be for this movie. But whoever it is, I hope that they are dark skinned. First of all, I think everyone in this main cast needs to be dark skinned. That's first and foremost. And secondly, I just hope that like the original series, there is a strong Black creative team, not just in the writing, in the producing, in hair and makeup, in directing, lighting, all of that. It needs to be Black through and through. So that's my hope for this.
So far, it sounds like DC is trying to put their money where their mouth is in regards to that. They're bringing back Milestone Comics as well. Reginald Hudlin, I believe, is either writing this or also producing the Static Shock movie. And now Michael B. Jordan coming on as well, I think adds a certain amount of like heft and like a certain amount of gravitas in it, especially given his like global popularity and like how high his star is rising. So fingers crossed that they will put the appropriate amount of money and care and love behind this, because while I came to the Static comics a lot later, I have such awesome memories in my head of watching the Static Shock animated series. Like that is something that I think a lot of people grew up with, like got exposure to this character this way. And it's always felt like weird, like, hey, this guy who I watched all the time growing up, why doesn't he have more of a footprint now that superheroes and comic books are kind of the dominant global popular culture? So I'm hopeful that they will do this hero justice. But Eric, tell me, what do you hope to see from this movie? And do you have a suggestion for who should play Static?
Well, everyone's thinking of Static as just this little kid, but on Justice League Unlimited, we got to see Static as an adult. So I'm not opposed to Michael B. Jordan playing an adult Static, and maybe it's a Godfather 2 thing. You have flashbacks to him as a kid, getting his powers, and it's also an adventure of him as an adult, having been a former child star superhero. So maybe he could, even though I would rather have Michael B. Jordan play Icon if he's going to play any milestone character. But I'm not opposed to him being Static. I mean, it makes sense for Static to happen now. The generation that grew up with the cartoon, you know, they're adults now. So they're the perfect, you know, some of them might even have kids of their own, as scary as that might sound. But like, that was 2001, 2002 when that show came out. So it's the perfect time to do this, you know, and it's a beloved character. So yeah, I'm all for it. And I kind of do hope Michael B. Jordan is playing adult Static.
What Teen Static? I mean, the co-creator Dwayne McDuffie said at the time that when he created him, he had in mind the fact that in the early 90s, Spider-Man was like an adult married character, and he was like, I miss that youthful energy. Right. And he tried to channel that, as I'm sure y'all know, into the creation of this character. And I want them to honor that. Like, yes, do I want Phil LaMarr to make a cameo in this thing? Yes, absolutely. Make sure he's in there somewhere. Do I want to see Michael B. Jordan? Absolutely, I do. But I feel like that teen energy is just such a part of who he is, and I want to see.
Yeah, that's true.
We have a suggestion from the chat from Howard Di Natalia. Again, I apologize if I'm butchering your last name. Please message me later if so. But I love this suggestion. What about Caleb McLaughlin from Stranger Things, who plays Lucas? Caleb is 19 years old, I believe. So he, and Liam Neely in the cast also says Marcus Scribner. He'd be perfect for Static age-wise by the time this comes out. Let's see. I don't know if I know Marcus off the top of my head.
Yeah, remind me, please.
Marcus is, he plays the son, Andre Johnson Jr. on Blackish, I believe.
That's an interesting choice.
If my lightning fast Googling is correct. But yeah, I think Caleb and Marcus are both fascinating suggestions there. Yeah, that makes, now that you mentioned, I do want Phil LaMarr to have a cameo as well. And also knowing that what a massive, obviously I want to see this movie in live action, but knowing what a massive anime fan Michael B. Jordan is, I would also love to see them do a kind of like Static Shock, like American style anime, like in the vein of what Rooster Teeth is doing with Ruby, or Avatar: The Last Airbender, because I think you could also stand to have an updated animated series to go along with this, because you know, I'm glad there's this boom in adult animation right now with things like Harley Quinn, and we're also getting MODOK on the Marvel side. But I do think it's important to keep pumping out stuff that's all ages as well, because, you know, I think like a lot of us, we have fond memories of things like Justice League Unlimited, Batman the Animated Series, and like DC does a great job with that. So I'd love to see them extend that to other characters beyond just your Batmans and your Supermans and your Wonder Womans.
Plus it's 2020, so his gay best friend can still be gay this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
A simpler time where they were just friends.
Yeah. WB is all about the corporate synergy, though. Like, if there's a movie, there's going to be an animated series companion of some sort. Like, I don't think they'd pass up that opportunity.
I mean, exactly. Especially you're seeing that a lot with what they're doing on HBO Max too. Like, you know, the Suicide Squad movie, they're also doing a Peacemaker television series. I think there was another one. Green Lantern's getting a television series and a movie as well, but I don't know how connected those two are going to be. But only time will tell. I'm very excited to learn more about this as we go on. But now we're going to go somewhere that no one has boldly gone before, except for a very particular subset of the Star Trek universe. So, you know, call it a Disco Inferno, call it whatever you want, as long as you call it Star Trek Discovery Season 3. That's right, Season 3 of the CBS All Access series, soon to be a Paramount Plus series, brings us into the far-flung future of the Star Trek universe. Now, the Disco Season 3 premiere takes us through the other side of a wormhole to the year 3188, where once more Michael Burnham serves as our audience surrogate, giving us a window into a wild new era of Trek. Now, as our reviewer on Nerdist.com, Riley Silverman, noted, Season 3 literally starts with Michael Burnham calling for a full system reboot, which kind of feels like a nice fourth wall breaking moment, asking for a fresh start for this series. So I'm curious, Eric, you're one of the biggest Trekkies or Trekkers that I know, depending on your preferred nomenclature. I am curious, what do you think this time jump does for the series, and is this a good place for new viewers to jump on?
Yeah, I've seen the first three, and I definitely think it's a good place. It's the smartest thing the show could have done, because it's kind of prequel era time frame never really worked for me. I loved the characters. I liked I mean, the production value was great, the acting was great, but like being shoehorned into the prequel thing didn't work. And now it's like, oh my gosh, we're 900 years past any Star Trek that we know. It's a completely fresh slate, and it's exciting. We want to know what these races and characters that we've come to love over 50 years could become. And I'm really, really enjoying it. And I think it's the smartest thing they could have ever done. And I think it is. You don't need to have really seen the previous seasons. This is a great jumping on point. I mean, it matters what happened, but you really can just start watching it from this point on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I was very excited when Disco first premiered. But I've only seen the first 2 episodes of season 1. But then I jumped in on season 3, and I was like, okay, like sounds like you guys had a tough time back in that universe, but now you're so far in the future that it doesn't really matter. Now I'm just curious about this awesome, like archangel looking spacesuit that you used to fly through a wormhole in. Yeah. So speaking from my own experience, I did not feel that much behind the 8 ball, because I do think that they do a great job of positioning Michael Burnham as this audience surrogate where you get to be like just as confused as she is, but they dole out enough cool world building and like enough connections to the past that you don't feel totally untethered from the bigger Star Trek of it all. But I'm curious as well, because this has been kind of a challenge they've faced. What do you think that Discovery needs to do to bring lapsed fans back into the fold and bring in new audiences? Why should people be watching Discovery right now, Keisha?
I think they should continue to do what they're doing right now, is have that full system reboot where it's still pulling on those classic Star Trek themes of exploration and discovering new life and overcoming the odds and having this message of hope, but also not being so tied to canon and worrying, I can't take this character in this direction because it doesn't line up with XYZ in the timeline. So now that they have this creative freedom to really imagine a world beyond Gene Roddenberry's vision, just not totally disregarding it, but just expanding upon it. Because when he thought of Star Trek, this was in the 50s, and when their idea of the future was something that's completely different now. We have new technology, we have new knowledge, and so let's use that and propel it even further, so that we're not losing the core of Star Trek, but we're imagining something even more than what came before.
Yeah, and I think that's a fantastic point. Like it's right there in the core ethos of the series, boldly going where no one has gone before. Like it's hard to think of a further flung future from, you take this already kind of like a vision of what an attempt at a utopian society might look like, and then how that breaks down, and then you take that even further. What happens when all of these things that that made that past universe possible start exploding? Where do you go from there? How do you rebuild? And I think it's a very exciting premise to start off on. But the question then becomes, where does the Star Trek universe go from here? Because, Disco doesn't exist in a void. We have spin-offs from previous Discoververse characters like Michelle Yeoh's Captain Georgiou. We have Anson Mount's Captain Pike getting a spin-off. Animated series like Lower Decks for adults. You have Picard. You have Prodigy for kids. It's bringing back Janeway. So, Amy, I think that you were in kind of a similar boat to me, where you appreciate Star Trek, but you're maybe not you haven't beamed aboard every single episode of every single series. But where do you think that Star Trek needs to go from here? Where would you like to see it go?
Well, I was consulting with you because I wasn't caught up on Discovery, and so I jumped forward to this and can heavily endorse that you can jump right in with the beginning of season 3. I love Trek. Trek is in my DNA, and that has meant, like, for me, I haven't seen everything. There's still some seasons of Enterprise that I'm going to catch up on at some point. But the main thing I want to see from Star Trek is just live, grow, continue. And so on that level, it's a delicious time. I can't believe we have 2 different animated series going on and coming. My Captain Janeway is coming back. The funny thing is, Discovery right now has shades of Voyager, shades of we're here. Can we ever go home? Who knows? But what are we gonna do while we're here? And I love that. I think it's a fun new side. I was shamelessly affected by the ending of episode 1 of season 3, because you can always hit that "what the Federation means to me" button and it will produce the waterworks for me. It's just a robotic thing. But I love that they get to do something different. They're like, we're kind of an action show. We have all exciting production values and set pieces, and we're coming at it from a different direction. And I think that's really fun. I just love the idea of lots of it existing alongside each other.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent point. It's kind of been a bit of my issue with Star Wars, where we're starting to get a bit more of that now, where you're only kind of getting the same kind of flavors from this vast universe. And now with all the different Trek offerings, it feels like this rich tapestry. Like you can get, like, if you want to laugh, you can do this. If you have a younger fan you want to introduce, you can show them Prodigy. If you want something that feels a little more traditional, or you want familiar faces, you can show them like Picard. Or I'm just very excited by the sort of, it feels like they've restored that feeling of possibility to the Star Trek universe. But I'm curious, Eric, where would you like to see the Trekverse go from here?
I want them to focus on the shows that they have announced now and making sure those are all really, really good. Because it seems like they're constantly announcing new spinoffs, and I think there's like 5 now. And I'm like, I like all of these shows, but I think that they're good, but I want them to be great. And my one issue with, even this goes for Picard too, is a lot of the sci-fi stuff part of it feels like sci-fi I've seen elsewhere recently, and I want them to give me like ideas that kind of blow my mind. And right now I'm like, okay, the AI stuff in Discovery and Picard to a certain extent feels a little Westworld, feels a little BSG, and I want them to do something that doesn't remind me of anything, so I'd rather that they focus on the shows that they've got and making them fantastic. And Star Trek has a history of season 3 being, at least modern post original series Star Trek, season 3 is usually when like everything starts getting really good. That goes for Next Generation, that goes for Deep Space Nine, and on. So I'm really hoping that that's, history is repeating itself, that this is where the show kind of finds itself. But that's really what I want. I want them to kind of focus a little bit more on what they've got and less on like, let's do this new thing, unless it's a DS9 continuation, in which case I do want to see that.
DS10 coming to a show near you very soon, coming to your local streaming service.
What? No new Enterprise? Come on.
No, they can't make a new one until Amy finishes. It's contractual.
So I watched all the Andorian episodes. They were the best ones.
Season 4 of Enterprise is really good. I'll say that.
So something to look forward to, Amy, if and when you ever get to it. Season 4, waiting for you. In the chat as well, we have Howard D. Natali saying, Season 3, Episode 1 was a blast. I want Discovery to stay in 3188 for a while. And I have a good feeling that they're going to do exactly just that. And Amanda Nelson says, I agree with Eric. Make what they have now good. But Eric, you brought up something that is going to segue perfectly into our next topic, because history is repeating itself. That's right, folks. Last week, the internet lost their ding-dang minds, and rightfully so for a change, when news broke that Showtime is bringing back everyone's favorite serial killer turned lumberjack series, Dexter, for a brand new run. For some reason, probably involving a giant burlap sack with a $sign painted on it. But while Dexter was beloved for most of its run, it also was one of the most infamously reviled endings in TV history, giving the likes of How I Met Your Mother and Game of Thrones a serious run for their money. So my question to the panel to start this off is, why bring back Dexter? Can a limited series help reclaim this show's legacy? And Eric, I know you wrote a piece about this, so we'll start with you. But I'm going to ask this of the whole panel because I'm curious. So Eric, tell us a little bit about how you think this show can kind of reposition Dexter in the public consciousness.
I mean, I think most fans loved seasons 1 through 4. Like, that was just great TV. But after that, it was hit and miss. And then that final season was pretty awful. I kind of am not really for this approach with almost anything. I hated when people were like, you need to redo Game of Thrones or you need to redo Star Wars. It's like, no, they finished. But Dexter might be the time where I think maybe you'd kind of do just hit the reset button. Like, and since it's the original showrunner coming back, if he did the first 4 seasons, I think you could literally just kind of pick up, from where that ended and kind of maybe erase some of the bad stuff. I don't know. I've heard that that's not what they're going to do. Since I wrote that piece, I've heard that the showrunner's like, yeah, we're not going to erase anything that happened, which is, a little depressing. But I hope that they can save it. I mean, as to why they're doing it, that show was one of the biggest hits Showtime has ever had. That's the reason right there. Like, there's a reason it ran for 8 years. But yeah, I just hope that they do something that isn't as insulting, because it was real. I feel Dexter was really building towards one specific thing, which is when is Dexter going to be exposed and caught? And you kind of played with that in season 2, but they weren't ready to go there completely. Like, to me, not ending the show with that scenario, you just feel like he gets away with it. And that's not what I wanted to see. I don't think anybody wanted to see that. So
no, I mean, the amount of furious tweets I've seen since it's gone off the air, I think speaks volumes. But Keisha, apart from, as Eric mentioned, kind of the dollar sign of it all, why do you think it's now is the right time for Dexter? What do you hope that they achieve with this narratively in order to kind of bring him back out of the woods and into our hearts?
Maybe I'm the wrong person to ask this question, because I don't think now is the right time, especially given the current climate. So climate, wow, going for a different word there, but climate. Just this idea of this white male in a position of power subverting, the law and getting away with it just feels way too on the nose at the moment. So that's why I'm not particularly excited about the revival, but I do hope they at least confront that in this series a little bit more better than they did in the finale. So that's my small hope. Other than that, I don't know. I don't have any other hopes for this show other than please be good.
Yeah, it's also feels particularly egregious in the face of them canceling other critically acclaimed series that maybe have not been given the same opportunities, like On Becoming a God in Central Florida with Kirsten Dunst, or even like over at Netflix, for example, with them pulling the plug on Glow. We
so mad about that.
Yes, and as so many people are, because it just feels like that they're defaulting towards a certain kind of story being told, one that has been told since time immemorial, one that looks like they just copy pasted people like me up on the big screen, and just it's with so many offerings and such a constant need for content, it's a little disheartening to see them just go back to the same well over and over again. Like, it's hard not to read a Dexter limited series as anything other than deeply cynical, because it's just to push more Funko Pops. It's just to sell like Dexter lunchboxes. Like Dexter had how many seasons to tell the story right the first time? Like, why do you need 8 seasons? Why do you need a new lease on life? Like, let these actors do something better with their time.
Do you feel like they were sitting around being like, does anyone have a true crime thing? People love that true crime stuff. Does anyone have anything? Oh.
Dexter.
Like, do you think that's what happened? Like, the intervening
Yes.
7 years of everybody getting obsessed with serial killers was they were like, haha.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they're like, we need something that's a little true crimier, but to me, like the stuff that they were doing in On Becoming a God in Central Florida is more fascinating and timelier in a way than what we've seen with Dexter. In the chat as well, we have Board Gamer Steph saying, well, there's a series of books, so maybe it'll work. And Langley M. Neely says, they've killed off almost every signature character besides Dexter. I'm kind of through unless you're erasing the bad seasons. But I'm curious with this, since we know they're not going to erase those bad seasons. And look, Dexter's going to happen regardless of what. There's nothing anyone can do to stop Dexter. He is.
Is that the tagline of the show?
Yes, Dexter, the limited series. There's nothing you can do about it. But I'm curious, what canceled or finished shows actually deserve a new lease on life through a limited series or a sequel series? And Keisha, let's start with you on this one.
Oh, honey, I got a list.
Please share this list.
At the top of this list is Pitch, starring Kylie Bunbury and Mark Paul Gosselaar. Ended on a cliffhanger. It was so exciting. I know it was mad expensive, but it deserved another second chance. And I would also love to see them just redo Sleepy Hollow. Just like erase everything that happened after season 2 and just redo it. Just to fix that egregious killing of our beloved detective or sheriff. And Living Single, can we reboot that? Like, seriously, if we're gonna reboot a beloved 90s show, why not have the original Friends?
Honestly, I would not be surprised to see a Living Single sequel series the next couple years. I think of anything, it's definitely possible. But I'd also love our producer Adam is also super on board for that in the chat. Incredible. For myself, the first one that came to mind, because I just remember being so disheartened when it went off the airwaves, and I feel like there's kind of a void for this kind of show, and maybe I'm wrong, but happy endings. Really phenomenal ensemble comedy, incredible actors. They've all gone on to bigger and better things for the most part, but I want a show like that. I want like a good ensemble comedy to look forward to. That it just like I need that kind of hopefulness in my life again, and deep irreverence. But Eric, what about you? Is there a canceled series or a show that's no longer on the air that you think could benefit from a second run?
Yes, my list is also long, but at the top of it is Pushing Daisies, which ended with another cliffhanger. But even though we already mentioned it, the wound of Glow is very still open. Like Glow to me was just like how, especially when they filmed an episode, like the fact that they did that and they're just like, yeah, we can't do it right now because of COVID. I'm like, we'll wait. You know, it's just, to me, like, again, it's like a critically acclaimed show. It had Emmy nominations. People love it. Like, it deserves an ending. And it makes me not want to really invest in anything Netflix, because it's like, it doesn't matter how popular or beloved it is. Like, you're not going to get a conclusion. And that makes me angry. So Glow is the fresh wound. So I really want that one. But yeah, Pushing Daisies is a show that I really think deserves something. Like, it just was too good to go out like that.
It's like part of Brian Fuller's ancient curse, whatever like button he took from some like secret witch that has caused every project he's in to like have issues around season 2, maybe season 3, sometimes even before it starts. I mean, we just talked about Star Trek Discovery. So yes, I definitely, justice for Brian Fuller. Give us a Hannibal season 4 as well. That's definitely that was definitely a thundering refrain when we got the cast of Hannibal together earlier this year for a big reunion, and you could tell how much fun they all had doing that show and how much they loved like seeing each other once more. So more Hannibal, please.
I think that one's going to happen at some point.
I mean, look, I'm sure the streaming numbers on Netflix could back it up, and they don't have to worry because they'd only be producing 1 more season as opposed to 3, which seems to be their infamous number. But Amy, same question to you. Is there a show that you think deserves a new lease on life?
Y'all have made some amazing suggestions, and the campaign for bringing Pushing Daisies back from the dead writes itself, honestly. But I think right now, I really just would like for them to stop the bleeding on all the stuff that's currently happening that's getting, like, unrenewed. I'm with you on, like, Glow and Stumptown and all these shows that were, like, people actively in the middle of telling their stories right now who've been derailed. I would like, as much as possible, to get that all back on track. If we have to choose an either or, let the people working right now trying to tell their stories make it through this, hell year and go and tell more stories.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fingers crossed that people once things get to a better place where people kind of figure out their production protocols, because there is going to be a massive demand for content. And I saw people as well suggesting, like Mark Maron suggesting a movie for Glow as a way to wrap it up instead of a full season. So maybe we'll see that.
One day at a time being on TV, like I feel like there's hope to pick up all this good stuff that's been made and not seen yet, and maybe that can be the thing that bridges it to getting more.
A Glow movie is the equivalent of 4 episodes anyway.
So,
like that would be like,
if they're already doing 4, why not do a full 8?
Like, just do, I don't know.
Just two movies. It's a season almost.
You just know there's like a giant gaseous floating head like Zordon, or like a supreme intelligence somewhere in the back rooms at Netflix who's just like the grand algorithm who's just being like, cancel. Yes, exactly. It's major Mojoverse vibes, which is something else I'd love to see in the Multiverse of Madness.
Remember when we thought Netflix was the thing that was going to save all of our canceled shows? Like there was that period of time, it was like, oh, let's get this show on Netflix. It got canceled by Fox or ABC or whatever. And now it's like, they're the worst offender. They just cancel everything. Ugh.
Look, they lived long enough to see themselves become the villain.
Now,
before we move on to trivia, I do want to touch on this because the Dexter news made me think about it. Do you think that Dexter is the worst TV ending of all time? And if not, what would you put up for that not so or that dubious honor? Keisha, let's start with you. Or what is one of your least favorites?
We know the answer to this, and it starts with game and ends with Of Thrones.
Oh my, yes. It's hard to think of something that made me more furious.
Like all of that buildup, 7 seasons of buildup or what are we, 8 seasons now, to not a single payoff. No character went in the trajectory of their journey. And immediately after the finale, it was so bad and we hated it so much, we pretty much forgot Game of Thrones existed and have moved on. It was like, this is done, we're moving on. Let's never speak of this again. Except we are right now, but
Yeah, but just for very specific purposes, not talking about it fondly. I don't get the same sense of excitement when I hear about the House of the Dragon prequel. It went from being maybe my favorite show on TV, period, to just so angry and like disappointed with how poorly they like brought that in for a landing. They could have handed it off to like Brian Cogman, just collected checks for like another 4 or 5 years, but instead they're just like, no, we're gonna do Star Wars. Psych, we're gonna do the 3-body problem. We don't care about you. We don't care about this series. Goodbye. Okay, let's see in the chat here as well. Sorry. Okay, Gnome saying has one that I'm inclined to agree with. Seinfeld, the ending of Seinfeld, in which they go to jail. I was just like, a lot of people love it. I am not one of those people. I think that's an excellent call right there. But Amy, tell me, what is your candidate for worst TV ending?
I think that the Seinfeld cast was gonna settle down and learn a valuable lesson and become like really good people.
No, I just didn't want that to be it.
I feel like the endings I really hate are the shows that never get a chance. I mean, just to be sort of boring and earnest about it, like the ones that's like cliffhanger forever, and unintentionally. Like that's really, there were things I liked in the Game of Thrones ending. It deserved a kind of universally loved, like it deserved to go out with the same kind of success that it had enjoyed at its sort of creative middle points there, and that is disappointing, but like at least they weren't like, and then what happens? Meh.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I definitely think that some shows can like land the plane like that even when they have like a kind of an open-ended note. Like I think Party Down is a great example of a show that like knew they probably weren't going to get a 3rd season, but it ends on the hopeful note of these characters experiencing some meaningful growth while still making me sad that we're not getting any more. But before we move on, Eric, I want to hear from you. Do you have a candidate for worst TV ending?
I mean, I kind of do think it's Dexter. I really do. I was not one of those people that was that angry about Game of Thrones. Like there are things I would have done differently. It wasn't my favorite season, but I wasn't like, I never want to speak of this show again. I still love that show. Like it didn't kill my love of the show. And I always felt that it was very much more like real life in the sense that you're not going to get things the way you want them to be. Like that was the thing of Game of Thrones. It's like Lord of the Rings, but shitty in the way real life is shitty, and but
Dexter, a long form essay on there not being
Lord of the Rings into this. Let's not. No, let's not.
No, but you know what I mean. Like it's this big epic fantasy that doesn't go the way you want it to. But yeah, I really do feel like Dexter's the one that made me go like, I don't know if I'm ever going to revisit this show ever again. Like there's not anything that makes me, and I loved Dexter. So for me to say that, like, I'm not going to go back. But also like Amy, shows ending on cliffhangers, that is always a worse scar. Twin Peaks left a 25-year scar of like, I don't know, like, I went through all the stages of grief with Twin Peaks of like, oh my God, they're going to do something, right? And then like, it's never going to happen. And then maybe, and then it did. So you just never know. But that is something I hate. I would rather have closure that I don't necessarily agree with than no closure. Like give me an ending I hate versus no ending, But if we're talking bad endings, man, Dexter does take the cake.
I appreciate that stance on the some closure better than none closure, even if it's not the ending you wanted, because they put it was right there in Game of Thrones all along. If you've been expecting a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention. But that said, now that we're done with the news for the day, it's time for some good old-fashioned Nerdist News trivia. And we here at the Nerdist News Talks Back Institute for the Trivial Arts like to connect our trivia subjects to the barest of threads. So given that today is Jon Favreau's birthday, happy birthday, John, we're going to celebrate with some Johnny Favs trivia. All right, so do you have a pen, pencil, or crayon, something to write on, folks?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay. So question number 1, Jon Favreau has had a lot of bit parts over the years, but which of these movies is he not in? Is it A, Batman Forever, B, Something's Gotta Give, C, Fred Claus, or D, Elf? A, Batman Forever, B, Something's Gotta Give, C, Fred Claus, or D, Elf? Which is he not in?
Okay.
All right, do we have our answers?
I have mine.
Let's see them, folks.
Can you see mine?
Okay, I can see you wrote. Keisha, I can't see yours. Can you tilt it a little bit
Oh,
towards
oh,
the?
sorry. Okay.
All right. Well, Keisha. Oh wait, you wrote Batman Forever.
I circled Batman because I was like oscillating between those two.
You shouldn't have oscillated because the answer is in fact Fred Claus.
No.
Apparently, he's listed as an assistant in Batman Forever.
Really?
Who knows whose assistant he played? But that's your answer right there. Fred Claus, he was not in. Vince Vaughn was. Okay, question number 2. True or false? He began a career at Bear Stearns on Wall Street in the 1980s. True or false? Jon Favreau began a career at Bear Stearns on Wall Street in the 1980s. The answer is true, but he then quit and considered becoming a New York City fireman before deciding to make Baby Yoda.
He looks like he totally worked in like 80s, like Charlie Sheen Wall Street. Like if you look at young Jon Favreau, like he just fits right in.
He's got that vibe.
Yeah.
Just figured too weird not to be based on something.
Yeah. So question number 3, speaking of Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau met on the set of a movie, but which movie was it? Was it A, Rudy, B, Swingers, C, Hoffa, or D, PCU? A, Rudy, B, Swingers, C, Hoffa, or D, PCU? Which movie did Jon Favreau meet Vince Vaughn on the set of? All our genetics in the chat are losing their mind. Okay, let's see here. I'm sorry. The answer is A, Rudy. This is so much. I will say this. I would have beefed every single question so far. This is not as intuitive as I might have hoped.
My left-handed powers are failing me right now.
Oh, wait. Let's see here. Question number 4, true or false? In high school, Favreau went by the nickname Johnny Hack. True or false? In high school, Jon Favreau went by the nickname Johnny Hack.
Did he drive a cab? What? Like?
Well, you'll find out. Okay. I'm so sorry, folks. The answer is true.
What?
He went by the nickname Johnny Hack because he was really good at hacky sack, evidently.
Oh my God.
All right. Here's a different one. What was the first movie that Favreau directed? Is it A, Zathura, B, Maid, C, Elf, or D, Bad Cop, Bad Cop? A, Zathura, B, Maid, C, Elf, or D, Bad Cop, Bad Cop?
Probably wrong.
What was the first movie he directed?
Oh, I'm not going to get this.
The answer,
please tell us,
Eric, you got it correct. It is B.
I got one.
Maid. You did.
Yay.
Jon Favreau, history's hardest trivia topic. I'm gonna have a word with our quiz master after this. All right, question number 6. True or false? Jon Favreau dropped out of seminary school to pursue acting. True or false? The answer, as Keisha guessed, is false. He dropped out of Hebrew school.
Yeah.
Wee bit different.
Yeah.
All right, question number 7. In what movie does Favreau play a SWAT team member turned professional athlete? Is it A, Very Bad Things, B, Desert Breeze, C, The Replacements, or D, Person Unknown? In what movie does Favreau play a SWAT team member turned pro athlete? Is it A, Very Bad Things, B, Desert Breeze, C, The Replacements, or D, Person Unknown?
This is what we call a shot in the dark.
You just make me feel better.
All right, let's see. Well, I'm sad to say that shot missed its target because the answer is C, The Replacements.
I love
So
that
congratulations to
movie, by the way.
Keisha and Amy. Yeah, I need to rewatch that. I need some Keanu in my life. Let's see. Question number 8. True or false? On the set of Elf, Will Ferrell suffered from headaches throughout all of filming because he had to actually eat all the sugary food that his character eats in the movies. So true or false? Will Ferrell had violent headaches all throughout filming because he actually had to eat all of the sugary food his character Buddy eats in the movie. Okay, let's see those answers. The answer is in fact true. Jon Favreau is the less destructive version of Stanley Kubrick. So he's look, you got to get it on the day. You got to eat that spaghetti for real. Okay, question number 9. In the movie Chef, what's the name of the food truck that Jon Favreau's character starts? Is it A, El Jefe, B, The Prince of Venice, C, The Swirl, or D, Free Range? In the movie Chef, what's the name of the food truck that Jon Favreau's character starts? Is it A, El Jefe, B, The Prince of Venice, C, The Swirl, or D, Free Range? All right, folks.
Speak
let's
Spanish,
see
and I
them.
probably misspelled this.
No, you got it correct, and that is the correct answer. El Jefe serving Cubanos. Okay, question number 10. Favreau has been involved with Marvel movies since the get-go. Which Marvel movie, though, did Stan Lee dislike? A, Iron Man 2, B, The Incredible Hulk, C, Thor the Dark World, or D, Daredevil? So Favreau's been involved with Marvel movies since the get-go, but which of these Marvel movies did Stan Lee dislike? Iron Man 2, A, B, The Incredible Hulk, C, Thor the Dark World, or D, Daredevil? Excelsior. Oh, Amy, I'm so sorry. The answer is D, Daredevil.
Good answer.
All right, that is all the Jon Favreau trivia, I hope. Okay, supercomputers tabulating it now. Complex algorithms are happening, and the answer is our winner is Eric. Congratulations.
How'd that happen?
You are the Favreau son. You are the Jon Favreau expert now for here forevermore.
Favreauholic.
Forevermore. Long may you reign. So that's it for today's episode. Now it's time for our 30-second soapbox. Is your time to talk about anything that's been on your chest, talk about anything you want to, promote anything you want to. So Eric, as our newly crowned champion, you are up first. So what do you have to share with us?
I've got a whole bunch of stuff up on Nerdist that you can check out. I just did a whole piece on Dexter that quickly got proven wrong by its showrunner 2 days later. I've got a whole bunch of stuff, so please check me out, on the Nerdist website. You can always find me there, and you can always find me on Twitter at GeekBoyEric. That's me. So that's pretty much it. That's what I got for you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, Keisha, you're up next. What do you have for us?
Hi, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Keisha Maze. That's KeishaMaze. And probably tweeting about Orlando Bloom or Lord of the Rings or Titanic or something like that. And I'm currently working on a big supernatural thing that's happening, series finale coming up. So that's over at tvguide.com, launching this November. Any supernatural family out there, this one's for you.
Yeah, I can't believe that show is finally ending. It seemed like that was physically impossible for them to stop making the series, but I'm excited to check out what you have coming to TV Guide.
Thank you.
All right, last but not least, Amy, what do you have for us?
Well, I'm going to be following Keisha immediately for the Orlando Bloom and other 90s discussion, yes. But this weekend, if you are looking for some great comic book discussions, Baltimore Comic-Con is doing all their stuff online. So I get to lead a couple of panels with some friggin' legends. I get to do a Terry Moore Spotlight panel. We're talking to Al Ewing. We have Brian Edward Hill and Joelle Jones and a bunch of Gotham people. I'm going to have a panel with Becky Cloonan where I try not to just drool. I don't know what's going to happen. So, tune in to see if I just drop dead on the spot. But they're going to be really fun, and they're trying to do live panels, and it's this weekend free.
Fantastic. I can't wait to check out those panels. And I feel you. I'd probably just start drooling if I was talking to Becky Cloonan as well. I just want more of her artwork all the time, always. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining me here today. That's it for today's episode of Nerdist News Talks Back. Thank you to everyone on the panel, to everyone joining at home. And make sure you check out today's episode of Nerdist Now, because we have an exclusive interview with Patton Oswalt about MODOK, his new stand-up special premiering this Friday, and so much more. And with that said, we'll see you back here next Monday for a brand new episode of Talks Back live at 2 p.m. Pacific on Nerdist YouTube channel and Geek and Sundry's Twitch. But until then, stay safe, be healthy, and have a great day. Bye-bye.